Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following all the news and rumors on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and other next gen hardware like Steam Deck. I'm Damon Hadfield, and as always, I am joined by Jonathan Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
Beyond. Hey, Damon.
Hello there. And Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
You're so good about some weeks you introduce me first, some weeks you introduce Jonathan first.
Right.
Very diplomatic.
Very polite.
I try to keep everything equal and even. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. This week, let's begin with a recent PS5 exclusive, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which enjoyed great success, sales success, at least here in North America. It was number one on the NPD charts for June. That means it was the best-selling game of June here in North America. I think that's impressive, considering it's a PlayStation 5 exclusive. It's only available on one platform, and a platform that happens to be very hard to find. These sales results impressive to you, Jonathan?
Yeah, certainly, definitely really impressive. I think it's a great sign for Insomniac and their continued success. Obviously, they've been making really, really great games, most recently with the Spider-Man franchise. But to see them sort of replicate the success with such a long-running franchise for them, but arguably one that doesn't have as much mainstream notoriety, I'm really, really happy and pleased for them. It's a fantastic game. Obviously, I reviewed it and gave it a 9, so I love it, and I'm really happy to see that success, especially as someone who's loved that franchise for so long. It feels like a really great moment for that series to kind of be hitting a different level than it's had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about how there aren't a lot of next-gen console exclusives for people who've purchased a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X and want to really see what their new consoles can do that their previous editions couldn't. So I don't know, Ryan, do you think that the success of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart bodes well for future next-gen exclusives on both platforms?
I really do. First of all, I want to add as well, I think it's the success of Ratchet's could not be more well-deserved. Talk about the real MVP of Sony first party right now of the PS5 era, young though it may be. It's Insomniac. What that team multiple teams have delivered is incredible. I think Ratchet, if we voted today, Ratchet might get my Game of the Year vote. I like it that much. I think it's that good of a game, and its success is so well-deserved. But yeah, it's really a great sign because it just says that even with supply constraints for both next-gen platforms, there is a serious hunger for content that can show off, as you said, to show off the power of these new systems. Microsoft will finally be releasing their first. I mean, we had the Medium as a sort of second-party exclusive early in the year, but next week we have Microsoft Flight Simulator, which obviously has been out for PC, but coming to Series X and S exclusively. No Xbox One version. They're going to do that as a cloud-fed version for Xbox One later. But it is a next-gen proper exclusive. And that's a game that technologically is I don't throw the term around lightly, but it's jaw-dropping on PC if you've got the right PC for it. And I can't wait to see how good it looks on the Series X. I mean, the Series X gameplay trailers that Microsoft's released a couple of look absolutely tremendous. I mean, I've got a screenshot of it behind me, and yeah, that I know it's not kind of the mass appeal like Ratchet and Clank is. It's a simulator, but it's still going to be quite a technical showcase. So that's it'll be good to see what that game can do on the console next week.
Yeah, Flight Simulator is a game that we gave a 10 to last year when it came to PC. So hopefully it's equally as impressive on Xbox Series X. That will launch into Game Pass. Is that right, Ryan?
Yes. Every single Microsoft first-party game, literally every one will be Game Pass from here, other than these little asterisk Bethesda games that had pre-existing deals with Sony. But yeah, everything else right into Game Pass. Yeah,
so it's just interesting. It makes it a little bit harder to gauge its success against something like Ratchet and Clank when we have like sales data. Microsoft doesn't report their sales data, but on the other hand, everyone who subscribes to Game Pass can just try it out on their Xbox Series X. So hopefully that'll convince a few more people to jump in the pilot seat. Jonathan, were you looking ahead? There aren't a lot of PlayStation 5 exclusives coming for the rest of the year. There's of course Deathloop. That's the next one. But Ghostwire Tokyo got pushed into 2022. So are you hoping that Ratchet and Clank's success will convince Sony that it is worth investing in actual PS5 exclusives?
I mean, I think it's certainly a good sign to push them continually in that direction. At launch, Demon Souls was a true PS5 exclusive, wasn't on PS4, and I believe that charted at top 10. In MPD, Returnal was in the top 10 when it debuted. So we're seeing, continued success. Those are definitely more hardcore, mature rated games. And then when you see Ratchet hitting in number one in its launch sales month just on PS5, I think that'll definitely push them into that trajectory. But I think their most likely already plans are to go forward in that direction. Obviously Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, and God of War 2, Ragnarok, whatever it ends up being called, is a series of games that will be cross-gen as well. And certainly their cross-gen first-party games have been really impressive on PS5. But I think after this sort of slate that we're seeing, we're going to start to see them move into these are the PS5 exclusives sort of timing.
And Ryan, after Flight Simulator, of course, Halo Infinite is supposed to be coming later this year, but that's a cross-gen game. So looking into 2022, is Stalker 2, which is I think set for spring 2022, is that the next big Xbox Series X console exclusive?
The next big first party one for sure, because it's definitely a similar case where Microsoft was pretty clear early on, hey, we're gonna do cross-gen for at least that first year. And now we are starting to see it, sort of piggybacking on what Jonathan said. We kind of have a clearer roadmap of that today, as of today, publicly for Microsoft than we do for Sony. Because, we've got Halo Infinite, cross-gen, Forza Horizon 5, Microsoft's other big fall first-party release, which it looks like it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And there's nothing about that series that would suggest otherwise. Also coming to Xbox One as well as the Xbox Series X. But then, you get into 2022, and we've already got some stuff on the calendar that is next-gen only. You mentioned Stalker 2, Redfall from Arcane, and then on 11/11/22, we've got Starfield, which is a next-gen exclusive as well. So it looks like this is kind of the year where it's the cross-gen stuff, but after this, 2022 onward, it's going to be Series X or bust for Microsoft, which I'm happy to see. I mean, hopefully everybody will be able to get their consoles in their living rooms by 2022, and then let's see what these new machines can do.
And Jonathan, on the PlayStation 5 side, I believe Square Enix has a couple announced PS5 exclusives. I believe both Forspoken and Final Fantasy 16 are confirmed for PS5 only. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe as of right now, Final Fantasy 16's sort of launch projections are a little bit of a weird place at the moment, I think. But as of right now, we see those as next-gen exclusives most likely. And I think we'll see more of that stuff to come. PlayStation has quite a few big titles that are cross-gen, and I get why they want to focus on that, despite them, or previously saying, we believe in generations, and here we are. But you've got 115 plus million PS4 owners. You don't want to just abandon them wholesale. I very much understand them wanting this immediate era after the PS5's launch to make sure the PS4 audience is still getting what they want and still having something, especially when PS5s are so difficult to get. But hopefully, probably by 2023, which lines up with PlayStation's past comments of seeing sort of a 2 to 3 year on-ramping into the next gen, that would sort of line up with getting into full next gen potential.
And then, of course, there's the recently revealed Dead Space from EA. That's also the Dead Space remake, confirmed to be a next-gen exclusive. So there is some stuff that's starting to come out, and hopefully the success of Ratchet and Clank will encourage both Sony and Microsoft to be a little bit more confident with their next-gen console releases. Our next news story this week is a little bit of an odd one. There's a new PlayStation 5 model of the Digital Edition that's being rolled out in Japan, apparently. I don't believe this has been made officially official yet. However, a reliable Japanese Twitter account that leaks release dates found this information, and it can be found on the official PlayStation Japanese website. So it hasn't been a big announcement, but there's a slightly tweaked model for the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition that is 0.7 pounds lighter than the launch model, and it has a new screw that you use to install it into its base. Jonathan, what do you make about this? Is it interesting that when the console is still so hard to find, they're already rolling out a slightly new model?
I mean, the new screw is really going to be our tentpole
Mhm.
topic on Beyond for probably the foreseeable future. I would imagine
Mhm.
that'll get us easily into September, October. It's one of those strange things where we've seen PlayStation sort of stealth launch slight revisions to their systems before. The PS4 sort of got a power cable switch just kind of out of nowhere, and it wasn't something that they made a big deal out of. It did make for an easier power outlet and everything. The plug that they were using was more universal, but that was just something that kind of happened. So this actually doesn't surprise me that this happened. It's very interesting that it's happening so early in the PS5's life cycle. I assume, it might have been something they realized, but the first run of production was already so far ahead they couldn't have changed it by then, and this was just something they were able to catch and are able to do now going forward, would be my best guess.
Mm. It's interesting that they're rolling it out in Japan, just because Japan's not PlayStation's number one market anymore. Console gaming is not what it used to be in Japan. Ryan, we're having a little bit of fun with this story. It's a little bit silly, but is there any indication that there's any sort of, however slight, any sort of model revision coming down the pipeline for Xbox?
I mean, I'm sure they'll tweak. Now, we're in a component shortage worldwide, right?
Mhm.
So
Sure.
it's entirely possible that they might switch the supplier on the Blu-ray drive, or any of the other million components in there. And in fact, it's Jonathan. It's funny that you said that you're referencing the power cord with PS4, because when Damon said that it's 0.7 pounds difference, that's actually a lot. The thing that came to mind was, I'll bet they switched power supplies internally, because that's, you can't really, at least if it's all coming from one component, maybe they changed several things and collectively it added up to 0.2 here, 0.3 here, 0.1 for that 0.7. But yeah, that was my guess that comes to mind, is maybe they just switched power supplies for any number of reasons. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's these companies have to adapt and evolve in this current global parts chip and parts situation. So it is kind of funny that it's this early on in the console life cycle, but at the end of the day, it's, as long as it works, it doesn't matter.
Well, if the slightly revised model of the PS5 Digital Edition is ever announced for other territories, we'll definitely share it with you here at IGN. Before we go this week, we have the results of last week's poll. We were talking about the Steam Deck, brand new next-gen portable gaming PC. Reservations went live on Friday, and now I think they're all booked up for the rest of the year. So now, if you wanted to reserve a console, I think you're going to be in line for Q3 2022. So we asked you last week, which model of the Steam Deck would you get? And perhaps surprisingly, the leading answer was not interested.
Oh, wow.
Almost 43% of the vote. But then after that, the highest end SKU, with the one with the largest hard drive,
512 gig, yeah.
Yeah, the $649 version was the leading response among the people that wanted to purchase it. So that's interesting. There is a lot of interest out there, I think, in this new console, and it's something that we'll be following closely here on Next Gen Console Watch.
And
we have a poll for you
as well.
It is on IGN first, yeah. So I think we got some more info coming down the pipeline for the rest of the month. Is that right?
Yeah.
Before we go, we've got a poll for you for next week. We want to know, what next-gen exclusive are you most excited for? Is it Deathloop? Is it looking into 2022, Starfield, or Stalker 2? Make sure to vote at IGN.com, and we'll share the results with you next week. That will do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. I'm Damon Hatfield. Thank you to both Ryan and Jonathan. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, with more Next Gen Console news. We'll see you then.